Welcome to the Tone Jerks Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Gower, and with me today we got
Kyle McIntyre.
And on the line, it's been a long time coming, but we got Johnny Woter from Daredevil Pedals. Say what's up, Johnny.
Hiya.
Calling in from Chicago.
I'm in Chicago. It is 8:30 p.m. and we're gonna,
what's the temperature there, sir?
I don't know, 30 something.
Damn.
Dude, I swear to God, last week it was 13 degrees outside.
Oh my God.
So
yeah, how do you guys do it with that weather?
it
Definitely tough skin.
People are gearing up for Halloween and everything, and I got a kid, all that, ready for Halloween. And on Halloween, it dropped to like 20 degrees, and we got like fucking 6 inches of snow.
You're like, all right, man.
I guess I'm keeping all this candy.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah. So, of course, I went out and walked around in that shit for like 2.5 hours,
Jeez.
And then it just sucked for like 2 weeks, man. So, yeah, you never know.
So now you're in your warm spell.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter though, because I've been really busy, so it makes it easier to like sit in your shop and just solder shit for 10 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
Huff solder fumes all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no temptation of like, I could go to the beach, It's like, nope.
I could take a plane, go to, California.
Right. It's like, no, it's just work time now, which is fine,
There you go. Nice.
It worked out, getting my head in the game for NAMM and all that crazy shit.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah, the necessary evil of doing, it's like you can get away with not dealing with people for most of the year, and then you make up for it all in 4 days of just never wanting to deal with society again, And
then you go back to recluse.
Yeah, you spend the rest of the winter just holed up in your basement, like, fuck that. Don't, it's like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, like, don't leave the house today.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not going to go anywhere.
Nice. But yeah, well, we're going to get a little bit into like, kind of a little bit of your backstory, and then we're going to tackle some topics. But before we do that, let's get into what's new with everybody. Here, I'll kick it off. We'll switch it up a little bit because Kyle's story is going to lead into like maybe a topic later on. So I got a new pedal, and then I got a fox catcher from Copper Sound Pedals.
All right.
So our buddy Alex over there. Talked to him. It's been a pedal that I tried it before, and I've been really like eyeing it. I'm like, man, I should just fucking get it. I really like his gravity bomb boost, which I own, and I was like, you know what? It's his take on the Blues Breaker circuit, which is
anytime someone says Blues Breaker, your ears perk up.
Well, it's quickly become a drive pedal that I really dig. It stacks really well with other distortions and stuff like that. And his is pretty cool. It has like a tone knob and then like a presence knob or whatever he calls the nature knob. And so you can, Blues Breakers, in my opinion, can get like really bitey and like piercy. Mm-hmm. You can like pretty quick. His, you can dial that in or out. It's cool. It's got an order toggle switch for the gravity bomb boost.
Oh, nice.
To put it before or after the drive. And yeah, I'm pretty stoked on it. It's been one I've been like I said, I tried it at NAMM. Co had it in for a little while, so I was trying it on his rig, and I did dig it. And I was like, I should just get it. So, but like, trying your own guitar with your own rig and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's definitely pretty fucking cool. So, yeah, pretty stoked on that. And then I did get another pedal in from Pedal Genie, which I'll have to actually get into. It's Dwarfcraft, ARF, Attack Release filter. And it's like, I was like, I think I saw it because I'm like, oh, this is a pretty cool pedal. And I saw it, like, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should check out. I got the email saying that it was coming. I'm like, I should look at demos of this thing. The only demos I see are of synth pedals or synth. Oh. And like those micro cord things running through it.
I'm like, filter.
Yeah, and I'm like, shit. So I'm gonna have to see what it sounds like on guitar. I think I'm like with Pedal Genie, like I said, I'm really just trying to go for like weird stuff, weird pedals or whatever, the ones that I've never tried before, and then I can get it in and try it and be like, yep. Let's put that back in the box and send it back.
No, let me try it out. I got some synths
and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, not a whole lot. What's news? I guess we had a gig, which we'll go into on your what's new, Kyle. But yeah, no, I got a new pedal in, and I'm pretty stoked on it. Pretty happy to have another Copper Sound pedal. But Johnny, we haven't seen you since NAMM, but you know, what's new in your world? What's shaking? What's good?
I just got a couple new pedals. I usually don't buy anything because I'm just, I can kind of make stuff, and
yeah.
I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to playing guitar and my band and all that, just like old school stuff. So usually I can build whatever the hell I need. But once in a while I do get a hair up my ass and I'm like, all right, I haven't bought any pedals in 6 months or whatever. So I had Brad from Creepy Fingers build me his Harikari fuzz, which is, super fuzz.
Yeah.
Which is basically a clone of Scott's orange super fuzz, which I think is a 72.
Yeah.
And it's, his stuff is like fucking artwork, man. It sounds so incredible. And I'm just like really beyond stoked. Cause it's things you wanted, but you're like, well, I don't need to spend, like $200 or $300 today, but once you get it, you're like, all right, dude, you're never going to get rid of that pedal, and it sounds amazing, and we're getting ready to go make a new record, so it's like, all right, well, I can validate it because this is, I got to record a record, so
it's for the band. I need the tones, yeah.
Right, and I got a bubble font that was really clean, and I got a killer deal on because the guy said it was broken, and of course I got it, and it was fucking fine, so that was awesome. And I got a couple other things. I got a couple of Josh's new pedals, which were cool. That cheese ball.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
because I had there's a guy that I know and my partner knows who has a couple of original ones. He's got like a meatball and I forget what the other one was, but those big ass like ones from the 90s that are worth whatever $900 or it's expensive, but he needed them like kind of fixed up and cleaned and shit. So I fixed them and I was like, man, these things are incredible. And then I saw he cloned that and made it, and it's cool,
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a distortion fuzz kind of thing, right? I remember watching the video on it and I already forgot.
Yeah, there's like four settings, and one of them's got like the super fuzz scoop, and one of them's just real gated, and it's like a million things you can do to dial it in, but they're all like pretty gnarly, which you usually don't get in a lot of like bigger kind of especially like stuff like that with Josh, or certain brands just aren't known for having like crazy over the top shit. So that was pretty cool. And then I just got the Ram's Head Electro Harmonics just because I want to hear I just want to hear what it is, and how they did. I know their engineer over there, and he's cool. So I was like, all right, well, let's check it out, for fucking $80 or whatever they sell those for.
Yeah.
So I got the Triangle and the Ram's Head just because they're affordable and they're cool, and they sound fucking great, dude.
Yeah, you're definitely we'll talk more about your band, but you're definitely a fuzz guy.
Yeah, it's like if you're like a black and white photographer or something, it's like you start really kind of getting minute details and things that most people might not even hear. You're kind of splitting hairs, but there's kind of
it's a good analogy. I like that.
I try to just keep things simple just for my own sanity, I've never had more than maybe 5 pedals on my board ever for, the last 20 years, but I always have like 2 fuzzes and maybe one like modulating pedal. I kind of go back and forth between a good phase and a good flange. And that's it. I got a boost, I got a drive, and a tuner, man. And then I put the atomic cock back on my board last week just because I felt like I should use that. The high pass thing really helps solos. So I'm going to use that for solos, and just kind of notch it, and it makes it all jump out really good. And it's got a JFET boost built into it. So
that one's pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's it, and I have a thing for, I don't really collect pedals. I don't have a lot of pedals, like Josh Scott has like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pedals that he collects.
Yeah.
Which you have to have a lot of money for too. But my one weak spot is like electro harmonics, old pedals, shit that comes in wooden crates and
big
so that's the one thing I do collect, like old muffs, and I got any of the old analog shit's just really cool to me. You know, it's big. I got an electric mistress here that sounds incredible.
Dang.
Not that you can put it on a board because the thing is
is a board.
half the size of my board.
It's like a boogie board.
Yeah, but man, they're cool. You know, I don't know what it is. There's just certain things. People,
Yeah, definitely a cool factor with some of those older ones.
Right. And he's a cool guy. I actually went out there and, every time I saw Mike at NAMM, I'd be like, man, all these people are building your fucking big muffs and making your money. Why don't you reissue these things, but do it like the original shit? Like do the big box, do the folding enclosures, all that shit. Like do it right. And he would always be like, nah, fuck that. I want to make new shit, blah, blah. And he'd always shit on it for like 2 years. He would just shit on my suggestions. And then I saw him at Summer NAMM, and then there was the fucking green Russian muff. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I talked to him and
royalties. Royalties.
Right. Well, he got pissed. He got pissed because the Way Huge made the green swollen pickle thing ruffled his feathers. So he's like, oh, well, fuck those guys. I'm gonna, so, and then he went off and just did all of them.
That's my cheese, my cheddar.
Right. So that was that. And then I said, well, I built all of these. I've been building these pedals all the time just for whoever. And I made a lot of, really good clones for people. And I'm like, if you ever want, I'd love to work on a schematic or something. And he's like, there's this thing. I had this triangle muff in 1970. And he told me this whole crazy ass story, how it got stolen. He's like, if you can make a triangle that sounded like this, mythical pedal that's gone.
Yeah.
I'll fucking buy it off you. And that's what we'll use. I was like, no shit. So of course I went home and, I worked on this off and on, but I didn't really take it seriously. And then finally I said, you know what, man, fuck it. I'm just going to put one together that I think sounds incredible. And then I mailed it to him and I'm like, hey man, I finally got my ass around to doing this. And then he said, well, come out to New York and all that. And he's like, all right, great. Done deal. And that was it. And I was like, holy shit, did I just, make this fucking circuit for this pedal he's going to put out? And then it didn't get used. So I was like, oh, really? I'm like, what? That's fucked up because I got paid,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and yeah, at least you got paid for it. But
I got paid, but they used they used, there's like a million versions of these muffs, right? So they decided, or somebody decided to go with a different version, which was probably like
someone's grandson or something.
Apps, some minute thing. But it was fucking cool to go out there and see.
Yeah, it's a cool story for sure. Yeah,
and see their massive like factory warehouse. Others. It's like, here's a pallet of MIG amps from 1983. Like, wait, a fucking like what? There's like a 10-foot tall tower of vintage MIGs, just like shrink wrapped. Like 80 of them. Like, what the fuck is that? They're like, oh, we just never unwrapped it. Like, what? Hold on.
Mind if I take one of those as a party favor?
Yeah, I know. Like, do these work? Like, I don't know. Stuff for like gear nuts. Where they just walk in and be like, all right, can I spend like a week here just looking in boxes of shit that you don't even know what's in these things?
Yeah, just like go rummaging.
Right. Hey, here's like 40 brand new triangle muffs from 1969. Wow, you never know, man. It was cool. So it was my 24 hours in New York. So
yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
I was gonna push it to Kyle. His what's new is kind of a combined one, but then it goes into a little bit of his story. Kyle, what was new in your world?
Well, we played a show the other day.
Yeah.
All right, let's start there.
Yeah.
Brought some stuff, basically like experimented with some new pedals on a board, and we brought the 412, that orange combo amp with the extension cab.
And it was a cool show. It was we closed. We didn't headline. It's fucking closing when you play some places.
Yeah.
And so you guys are headlining. No, we're fucking closing, dog. So we closed the show.
You're playing last, bro.
Yeah, that's what that means. And I was like, whatever, that's fine. And then we got paid. We sold merch, so we got money.
Yeah,
got tons of free beer, free food. There's friends out. It was cool. It was people stuck around for our set. But here's the clinker.
So we set up. We're getting ready to go. Brian starts the song off. Very first song is a song that I sing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Go to hit the first note. Nothing.
Bass cuts
just
out.
like bass gone. So.
Like we kind of tested the bass out. Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Got through tuning. It made it through tuning. It should make it through the show, right?
Something happened. It was like, fuck. So it was like, we got through and we're like, the last band. So we're trying to like hurry the fuck up. It's like, dude, like,
when you're the last band, or you have always the potential to play in front of
nobody.
No one. Even your own friends are like, shit. Well, it's kind of late, so.
And so, and so we're like, okay, let's hurry the fuck up and get this going. Yeah, I mean, the band before us is just like lagging, getting their shit off the stage. I'm like, yo, bro.
One that played way too long.
Yeah. I mean, you guys don't need to play for like 45 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're like, okay, keep on going. And then, they just wouldn't take their stuff off the stage. I'm like, no. So we ended up having to just move it. And like, oh, bro, I can move my amp. I'm like, yeah,
Good.
you could move your amp if you fucking would get it out of the way. And so we're like, okay, we rush and we get it going. Got my guitar sounding good. Vocals are checked. That's fine. And then Kyle's bass was, sounded fine. Turned all the pedals on. And then we start the song and it just
nothing
cuts out. So
I remained singing. Like, so it was like, I sing that song like all the way through, like no breaks. So I just like grabbed the mic, kept walking around like like Tina Turner up there, trying to figure out.
Slung the bass around your back.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like figure out. I'm like, oh, well,
God,
got to just pull this cable out. Got to figure out. I think you were trying to figure out if there was any loose connections first.
Yeah. I looked at it real quick, kicked it. I like hit it with my foot, touched the in and outs of the main cables. I didn't see if there's anything poking out of the pedals, like if they weren't seated all the way in.
And then
I was like,
at that point when you're singing, there's no fucking time, and we don't want to like stop the song because you're like, that's so fucking bush league.
Yeah,
we're like, keep on going. So Kyle, like he's crawling on his hands and knees, pulls the cable out, singing while he's going.
Put it right in and
plug directly into the bass amp, and you're like, okay.
So I guess I'm a straight into the amp kind of guy.
Yep. Today we're doing more, just keeping it rock and roll, punk rock, and it was. I think it was like one of the first shows that were like, oh, let's play with a bigger board.
Yeah, we had like 2 more pedals
for bass. I'm like, it has been pretty simplified for a long time, and it has worked.
Yeah,
and so like one of the first shows where we add more pedals, it doesn't fucking work. So we're like, maybe we should go back
to square one.
Because it was like adding a delay and a trem and stuff like that onto the bass rig, which isn't like too fucking crazy. But we're like, all right, guess this didn't work.
Yeah. It's I mean, I think we did all right after that.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a thing where it's like, okay, well, you could tell you were like flustered. You were like, you could be like, what?
I'm
like, fuck is going on?
Into the mic, I'm like, fuck.
But people are like, yeah. I mean, at that point, there's nothing you could do. I'm like, Kyle kept singing. He pulled the cable out, crawled down, grabbed it, pulled it, walked it over to his amp, plugged in, then got going, and then he just kicked the pedal board out of the way.
And I was singing my fucking heart out. So
yeah, but it was cool. So it was gotta make the show happen. We gotta keep on going, and maybe like we gotta practice a little bit more on that pedal board.
Yeah, and we need to practice troubleshooting on stage while we're playing.
Yeah, so figuring out what to do. I've had my share of fuck ups and stuff like that. But
so look, we got a new contender.
Yeah. So that's that was the show. It was cool, but it was like kind of like, damn,
this didn't need to happen.
It didn't need to happen. You kind of like realize
this could have been avoided.
Something happened with that. We still don't know what the deal was.
I was so pissed. I'm like, I still haven't even looked at it. I was like,
fucking pedal board.
Yeah, I'll live my life without that bitch.
I'm just gonna go with the clip-on tuner from now on. But yeah, that's kind of what's new.
That's an embarrassing what's new.
It's embarrassing. All right, so we got Johnny from Daredevil pedals here, and his band, the Evictions.
That is correct.
Kind of wanted to go a little bit into like what you like your background and stuff like that, a little bit of the band and Daredevils and pedals and stuff like that. So, I don't know, Daredevil pedals, you have like a certain style with your pedals and your brand and stuff like that. It's like it's fuzz, dirty rock and roll kind of stuff is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I kind of fell backwards into it, sort of. Just doing it, trying to create things for my own band, So it's always been kind of a natural, pretty organic thing because it was just, this is what I need, this is what I play, so I'm going to fill that void with, whatever. It wasn't like I was trying to tap into an audience or what was cool or any of that shit, right?
Mm-hmm. I was even saying like the delay that you have is like kind of like it has a a dial or like a blend with the dirt that you can add on to it and kind of make it a boost as well, right?
There's a gain section in the delay loop, which as far as I know, I don't think anybody really intends for a delay to sound shitty and dirty, right?
Yeah.
People like Echoplexes because they get that natural like preamp gain in it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do something like I'm going to go compete with like a fucking Strymon delay or like all these really kick-ass delays that are out there.
In a box.
Yeah. Like I'm
not I know better and I don't really give a shit to play that game anyways, and that's not anything that I would want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a big delay guy to begin with. But I do like things that are unique and vintage and gnarly, and I just got the idea and I was like, well, that would be at least a cool twist on it. If I'm going to do it, people ask me, hey, you going to make a flanger? You going to make a course pedal? And I always usually just say no, because I don't really use that shit. And if I did make one, there's way better ones out there already. So, I don't just do things to do it. I'm not going to make a Tube Screamer clone.
Why not? Everyone else is doing it.
It's the cool kids are doing it.
Right. I don't use Tube Screamer circuits, and there's 485 of them out there at least. So why add to the clutter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, definitely like a lot of your pedals are kind of I mean, they totally have that like vintage like inspiration. Some of the ones that we saw at NAMM that really stuck out for me was definitely the delay, and then the BiFET drive. Is it the
drive?
Yeah,
drive by.
Was it the drive by? Yeah. Right. Which just is I wanted to do like a classic op amp kind of drive pedal.
Nice.
And I kind of turned that into like a bass circuit for a bit too, and it was kind of a good platform to do other cool shit with it. So,
yeah, totally.
I ultimately I had this pedal, I had a pedal called the Red Light District, which was basically to get that Black Sabbath scoop kind of gain thing going on, which was awesome. We got it done, we figured it out, and I loved it. And it didn't catch on a lot. I don't know if maybe there's not as many Black Sabbath fans as I had hoped, but it's like you never know what's going to take off, and that kind of takes us to the whole mythos of fucking pedal land craziness.
And then definitely listening to your band too, the Evictions. I've been checking out that record, that it's definitely like a fuzz rock, like high energy fuzz rock kind of band for sure. And I could totally see how your brand of like pedals and what you do is really influenced by that, because you're like, I need this for this song, I'm just gonna fucking build it. Like I'm gonna do this, and I'm like, like I had mentioned before, and I was kind of like saying about fuzz, like I don't really play a lot of fuzz. We play in a punk or pop punk band, so a lot of it is more of like a dry or like distortion kind of sound, so less like fuzz. So it's more like it's like it really locking in with everything. And then like for fuzz, I'm like, I try and do like my normal like pop punk riffs and like stuff, and I'm like, this doesn't work for me. And I'm like, maybe I need to play to the pedal and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, all right, let me put this back in the box, and I put it back on the shelf. And then I'm like listening to your band. I'm like, not even like bullshit, like I'm blowing smoke. I was like, fuck, all right, I get that's a way that I can use fuzz, because you see the demos of fuzz and people are just wailing away and just like noodling on. I'm like, I'm not that kind of player. I can't just go and like the single note leads and stuff like that, and just like bending the shit out of my pentatonics. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then I listen to your band. It's definitely like it's your riffs and hooks for days, and your bass and guitar are really locking in. And I can hear that the bass definitely helps bolster the riffs, like, and like it sounds like a unit. So it's kind of cool how, like, I mean, your use of fuzz in your band, how you have a love for it. I'm like, oh, I get that now. I get the way that you could use a riff, and I'm like, one that really, I guess All She Wrote is like one riff that I'm like, oh, it starts off like kind of like fuzzy, almost sputtery, and then the whole band kicks in with bass coming in. I'm like, oh shit, that sounds fucking fat. And like the whole.
I thank you, dude. I appreciate it. It's kind of like you get into this wormhole to where I'm almost dialing in, my amp around the pedal kind of thing, and you start tailoring your rig and your pickups and everything to work with the pedals that you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you start figuring out how that all ties together, it changed the kind of guitars that I play. It changed the kind of pickups that I play. It changed the way that I dial in my amp, and it just kind of all unraveled itself into this whole thing where, oh, I can use a telly, and it's going to sound bigger than if I used humbuckers. That's fucking weird, and I need to understand.
Like, it goes against like conventional thinking.
Right, and it was like that whole kind of thing that just spurred more interest in it, because it's like, wow, now I can really start digging in and learning even more crazy shit about fuzz circuits and all that.
So what's kind of the rig that you're using, like, for your band? I'm assuming there's a lot of Daredevil pedals in that.
Yeah, I mean, the only things I have, the prototype for the Supernova Fuzz. Mm-hmm. I have a drive-by. I have a FET boost. I think right now I'm using a clone of the 1980 DoD FET boost, the orange one.
Oh, nice.
I got an original, and it sounds phenomenal. And for whatever reason, it's super loud, but it just has like a really cool dirt to it. So I built one of those, because the originals don't have a switch on them. So
I got one on. Yeah.
So I've kind of run the gamut on boosts and JFET boosts. I used the Super Hard-On for a while. I used the Silver Solo kind of Rangemaster thing for a while. There's a million different ways to kind of dial that. So, and then the only pedals that I haven't built right now, I have the MXR analog flanger, like the reissue of the old one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yes.
Like the old school one. And then I was kind of swapping that between the Whirlwind Phase 90, which is supposedly the original Phase 90.
Yeah, dog.
Which is, that one's it's true bypass, and that's my favorite.
That's one. I have one of those, and it's one of my favorites.
As far as pedals that I can take out and use and beat on, and be true bypass and all that shit. So
as far as I know, if you break them, they're pretty easy to fix. I broke mine, and Kyle was able to fix it. So I think we were at band practice.
I'm a genius. Jesus Christ!
I was at band practice. I stepped on it, just like, and like, uh-oh. And I just gave it to Kyle, and he's like, all right, cool. I can pull this apart and kind of find the problem. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So not a whole, kind of keeping it pretty slimmed down with that. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, are you using some of the same fuzzes in studio, or are you kind of just like with that? Or actually, what amp are you using? Are you using more of a Marshall or?
No, I used to be I got a 70s JMP that I used for my other band. Nice. And that was, it's like, all right, rock amp 101, right?
Yeah.
And that was great and everything. And then I found an old trainer for like $300, right?
Nice.
And it sounded really good. And then right around that time, I read something about Joe Perry, and he's always got different backline piles of amps and shit.
Yeah, he's got
every
15
tour.
of them. Yeah.
Right. And he said, he tours with like 200 pedals. He tours with like, 50 guitars, all these amps. He's got a whole truck full of gear that he just is continuously swapping out. But basically the question was like, what are you trying to accomplish with all this different gear and shit? And he's like, I let the amps be just loud and clean, and then I let my pedals do everything else.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, all right, well, that's kind of a different thing, because I always just tried to get like my good rhythm tone from the head.
Uh-huh.
And then, I'd nail a pedal for a solo or for just a boost or something. I never thought of it as play the head clean and then just keep all your normal tones from your board. Like a lot of guys now will just keep a clon on all the time kind of thing.
Yeah.
But once I started experimenting with that, that was like, okay, now I'm kind of getting into something new, even though I thought I had all this shit figured out. Right. And then, that band Horrors? I mean, they're a heavy band.
Sounds familiar.
From Georgia, they're a 3-piece. It's just heavy fucking, Melvin Z kind of shit. And he plays a fucking Esquire, right? Like a Telly.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 Marshall Super Leads, 2 half stacks. And it's just the biggest, heaviest fucking goddamn guitar sound, And I'm like, how does he do that with a goddamn Telly,
Yeah, I guess he's like letting because you can add like, I guess, heavier fuzzes and heavier, like more bassier kind of stuff. And have that jangly or that treble kind of cut with a Telly bridge only.
Yeah, so you're right. That was part of it. It's like the pickup doesn't get as mushed out. You can really nail it with a shitload of fuzz and it still holds its own and cuts through. And he was doing like the Pumpkins thing, going into the low input on the head. Yeah. So you're basically cutting out half of a gain stage and then it's all just, it's quieter, but then you just juice the shit out of the master volume, the volume itself. And so you get all this headroom so that when you do hit a pedal, it just fucking explodes.
And it's kind of cool because you have a lot more like control of what your sound is on the floor, as opposed to like an amp can only get, I guess, like if you hit it with like a drive or a boost or something, it's just going to get more saturated. Or I guess you could hit it with like a volume cut to kind of clean it up.
Right.
Which is
you can only compress it so much with gain, and you can only clip the shit out of it so much until you're just, it's like, with that volume war. It's like, I need the even louder boost pedal for my dual rectifier head. It's like, dude, it doesn't. You're
not going to get any louder.
It's not going to get any louder because your tubes and everything are so compressed as it is with gain. It doesn't matter what you stick in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the beauty of like the Rangemaster type stuff where you get into high pass things where you start cutting out low frequencies and all of a sudden it sounds like it's louder because you actually hear what the fuck's going on better.
Yeah, you're kind of like able to like fit into a spot that's not being occupied a little bit.
Right. And that's kind of the key to like any 2-guitar band, instead of just fighting each other, just get craftier with how you kind of sculpt your leads and things like that, So I don't, so basically I use like Trainer Bassmasters and I try and keep it clean, and I always have a fuzz running or a gain. I never play it just the head.
Yeah.
So, and they don't break, and those things are fucking indestructible.
Yeah.
And they're cheap.
Like $300. That's not a bad deal.
Yeah. And they're light and they're cool. And so that's been that. And then I was doing a Telly for a while, but that wasn't quite fat enough. And then I got into Filtertrons, and that was like, all right, that's it. Got it.
Yeah, and Filtertrons for sure, because they're a lot like lower output, but they still have a lot more articulation than some of the humbuckers that normally.
It tightens up the low end because of the way that the bobbins are. Mm-hmm. They're narrower or something. So that was it. I found like my weird tonal recipe thing. So, not that it ever ends, but basically, when I go to record, then I'll just bring a fucking giant case full of pedals and fuzzes.
Yeah.
And then the full length record that we did, I used the same head and cab. I don't even think we moved mics the entire record, but I brought, 6 guitars and probably 20 fuzz pedals and gain pedals and stuff like that.
There you go. You keep it simple in one regard, but you're like, oh, we're running all these fuzzes. We're trying them all out and figuring out what works. Yeah.
And it's incredible what you can get out of just changing a guitar, and changing a fuzz. And then I use a certain guitar for leads and just that whole thing. And it worked awesome. That's the first time I've done that.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
It was really fun and cool. And we were able to like fly through it, I don't know if other people can hear that shit on the record or not, but, entertaining my own neurotic, tone brain. It was pretty fulfilling. So.
But yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, yeah, If you
But
guys,
you
if
use
you-
a
if-
lot of stuff, or one of you uses.
I use a lot of stuff, and Kyle's trying to use a lot of stuff. But
Right.
Not anymore.
I kind of we'll get segue into a topic, but before we do that, I want to say if you guys do want to hear more about Daredevil and kind of his backstory, check out the Guitar Knobs podcast. You were a guest on there sometime last year, so you just search Guitar Knobs and go listen to that episode. But yeah, I want to get and Couch Riffs. That was a great episode you were on recently too. So that Couch Riffs podcast, that was a mouthful. Yeah, check that out. Johnny was on those episodes, but I wanted to get into some topics, which goes into kind of you're talking about your rig and how you like to approach it. You're more simplified, and there's a lot of advantages to that. And the rig that I use is a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
I am a little envious of like players that can kind of keep like their rigs simplified. Like we played with like punk bands and like harder rock bands this past weekend, and the opening band he had an SG, a Marshall like DSL 50 half stack, and a tuner. That's all he had. That was his whole rig. I'm like, damn,
Beautiful. Yeah.
that's cool. Bass player had jazz bass, a tuner, and an Ampeg 410, and I'm like,
But
all right.
they didn't have any problems.
They didn't. Yeah, and I was like, fuck, that was cool. And then, yeah, so my rig is a lot more complicated, Johnny. I'm using a Fractal effects processor
Oh boy.
in conjunction with actual analog pedals. So I have a wah pedal, I have a volume pedal, I have a boost boost pedal, a Copper Sound gravity bomb, and then I have like a analog delay, and that's all going into the Fractal. And then I am running 4-cable method, so I'm using my send and return of my amp, which is a orange Rocker Rib 50. So I'm like, at least like, I mean, I have like certain banks presets made for songs where I'm having like kind of almost like these syncopated delays. Sometimes I'm having trems, I'm having like flanges and stuff like that, and these songs and da-da-da. It took me a long time to dial that in to figure out what.
Doesn't that interfere with you? Say you're having a really great show and you just want to go bananas the whole time and run around and just rock out really hard and not worry about tempoing your delay.
Well,
it's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna roll around and go crazy and
the thing is, I can do that because I can just hit bypass and I bypass the Fractal and I'm just using my amp. So if anything happens and goes wrong, I'm like, I have like I love my amp. It's like a great, the clean on it sucks dick, but the drive section is like, that's kind of my go-to. I'm either like subtracting volume to get clean on it. Or I'm like putting like, some sort of drive boost in front of it. And then like, just to like kind of kick it into like a lead. And then I'm putting like, I'm adding dBs into the power amp section to make it louder.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, Johnny, it's all audio,
trying,
but I could see a roll in your eyes. And it's cool. But the thing is, like, I can always just like, if I forget to do something, it's fine. Like, as I have like a certain button that I push to where I'm like, there's a solo section where I have like a little bit of phase, a little bit of delay, and I go to town. But if I don't hit that, I'm like, I'm all right.
Where do you put your volume pedal in your chain?
It's almost like it's at the very beginning. So it acts like my almost like my volume knob. Because
you have a volume knob, right?
Yeah, I've very rarely use it. I have an on and off switch on my guitar. So if I need to turn it off real quick, I just turn it off. So my guitar,
I usually do that. I do that with my pickup selector.
Yeah, my guitar is, so my pedal board's very simple. My pedal board's very extreme, back opposite. My guitar is very simple. I have one pickup, a volume knob, which I guess I don't really need because I have the on and off switch. I never roll off my volume. I have one pickup, and I have an Evertune, so I guess that is complicated. But I never tune my guitar, so I can throw that thing around, bounce it off the, hold it by the strings. It doesn't go out of tune, so I can rock out, go bananas on that thing. And it's mainly just there to pass signal onto my pedal board, which does a lot of crazy tone changes and stuff like that. I have a different approach than you, I guess, because we are a 3-piece band as well, and I'm kind of like, here's my time to shine. Any chance I get, I'm like, all right, cool. Here's pedals, here's effects and stuff like that, or whatever. And then for a punk rock, pop punk band that we are, it's kind of cool because we stick out when we play like with other bands who are 3-piece bands. They're like, damn, that sounded. If we pull it off, they're like, wow, that sounds really cool. And they're like, oh, you're adding more atmosphere and bigger sounds to it. Because my idea is like, I want to sound like a 5-piece band.
Sure.
Instead of like a 3-piece, because Kyle and I both are lead singers, so we harmonize to each other. And then we're both like, when I'm singing lead, he backs me up. When he's singing lead, I back him up.
Right.
People are like, oh shit. So choruses are like really big with like harmonies and singing and stuff like that. And then like I'll kind of cut down to like a cleaner part and maybe like more arpeggiated stuff where like drum and bass are just driving like and then drums are bass is like a drivey bass thing. And I'll just kind of do a clean, maybe with like a little bit of a, I don't know, trem going, like a little light picking, and then comes into the chorus, so it's like, it's like it just explodes. And so that's my thing. But it would be, if I didn't have that, we could still do the show and do the songs, which I guess Kyle, he had that little bit of catastrophe.
Yeah, I was basically like Icarus, I got too close to the sun.
Yeah, he just Icarused out.
Gotta keep it simple, man. Yeah, I try to think the less shit that can possibly go wrong, the better. Because I'm already, we're playing like 2.5, 3 minute fast, fucking intense songs with solos, and I'm pretty much just yelling the entire song.
Yeah.
And I gotta play leads and rhythms, and then still like fucking rock out and put on a show and like do good while I'm doing all these other things. It's like patting your head and rubbing your belly thing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, if I can minimize the amount of pedals that I got to hit while I'm doing all this other crazy shit and running around, then good. Like if I have to just hit a boost, play a solo, hit it again, and then be back to yelling, that's about all I'm capable of pulling off within 3 minutes.
Job well done.
Yeah.
And if there's more shit in the way, it's just, there's no, like you see those guys that post their mega boards on Instagram and shit.
Yeah.
And like everything is so close. The pedals are literally touching each other. They're so packed onto this Tetris thing where it's like you literally found out how to fit more shit on the board than is even possible. And I just
10 pounds of shit
think,
in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah, and I immediately think, dude, there's no way you're gonna play a show and like, all right, hit that one right there. Hit that Chase Bliss pedal in the back middle.
Yeah.
With like
give
3
them the
millimeters
coordinates and stuff
around the pedal. Like you would need like a poker to turn that pedal on and off, let alone playing a show and hitting it with your big ass clunky foot, right? And but that kind of takes us.
Yeah. Someone needs to make like a as seen on TV kind of thing. Instead of like, the grabber thing to grab something from a high shelf, somebody needs to make that for their foot to like hit the pedal in the back.
Like, like a shoe with like a big pointy toe on it or something.
Yeah, some of them actually, we've seen those boards. They wear those pointy shoes actually. Some of them.
Yeah, like a really neat little like Buster Brown.
The infomercial needs to have like the black and white dude.
Yeah.
Like where he's like stomping on it. Oh, God damn it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do switch it. I feel like I'm defending myself. I do switch it up where sometimes I'll go with like, maybe like a 6 pedal board. To me, like I feel like I could get away with like a volume pedal, a delay, a drive, and then maybe a reverb. And I'm like, I should be fine. Because my volume pedal, I can just roll back to get cleaner stuff.
Then why don't you just do that?
Well, because I like having
because you're an idiot.
Yeah. One thing, it sounds bigger, sounds like a bigger deal to have multi effects, but the thing is that does all my pedal switching for me.
Yeah.
I just hit a button and it will turn on 4 or 5 things and turn up my amp's volume, or I push this and it turns down my volume, turns on this pedal, turns this down. But that goes with saying it's taken me. It's like almost like a year and years to learn this whole thing, learning the programming of it and stuff like that. So you're like saying like, oh fuck, okay, cool. I got to take a video course on how to use my pedal
for dummies books.
Yeah, fractals for dummies. So there's definitely downsides to having a more complicated rig, And it's doing the homework and literally taking it home after practice and figuring out like, oh, I had volume loss on here. I had this part. I need to turn my buffers off. I need to do this. I need to go find out this. And we'd have band practice, and like the drummer and Kyle, they're just like, yeah, no, it's whatever. It sounded fine. It's just as long as we locked in. And to me, I'm freaking out because I'm like, shut. my pedal board's freaking out or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, took it back and forth. And I'm like, when you had something simple, you're like, oh, that's yeah. You have 4 pedals and you're like, okay.
As long as you can play a show without it, then you're all right.
Yeah, I mean,
it's these people where their board shits out and they're like, I can't play. My board is not working.
You might as well just kill me.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what, dude, just stay at home.
Yeah.
Take this hammer and hit me over the head.
I think with us, like our songs like are all written with one vocal and one acoustic guitar. They can all be stripped down to that. If they sound good there, then we usually like, okay, we can take that to the band. And
you got to have a song to begin with.
Yeah, and that's kind of like usually how our stuff is based around. And all the effects are more for just like a little bit of fluff and stuff like that, a little bit of spice and sauces adding to it, but the meat of it.
Yeah, putting lipstick on your girlfriend or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Make a metaphor, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. It's like I definitely go back and forth to work sometimes for practice. Like I'll bring a board that's super simple, and I'm like,
your mini pedal board.
Yeah. I have and I have like maybe just like a wah that I kind of fuck with sometimes, a volume pedal and like a couple drives. I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty tight. And then I have, so like I decided to like, oh, I'm not going to use the fucking 4 cable method and stuff like that. Certain things that we can't do. We'd play a show. Like I've had the same thing where Kyle's like where his pedal board just like stops. I've had that with mine where luckily I didn't sing, but Kyle was singing and my pedal board, like it just like I had plugged into like faulty power to where it's like this loose like outlet on the front of the stage. So whenever the drummer kicked, because it was like the boominess of the subs would like knock out my pedal board. And so I'm like, I had no other outlets to plug into. So I'm like, cool. It was like, so my whole fractal kept on like load up, CPU loading, and I'm like, fuck. Every time I'm like, fuck. And so I look at him. I'm like, oh my god. So I basically like, abort, pull ripcord now, and I just basically like ripped out the board, plugged directly into the amp, and just gave myself more gain because I'm like, I can always just use my volume knob. So I guess I should always leave a volume knob on there so I can just roll down as I need to for cleaner parts, roll up, and just, And so I do have that ability. I just like maybe a little bit like spoiled that I'm like, I like to have other things.
Yeah, well, it's fun and it's kind of its own little hobby, I guess, if you want to just really get into it, and that's like your thing, you're like dabbling in endless, infinite effects and that whole, aspect of being in a band. It's not just like writing songs and okay, this works, go.
Yeah, and there's
it's fun for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And you can I think a lot of people do miss it. Like you had mentioned, it's like putting on a show. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, dude, my sounds are killing it. My tones are killing it. All the like, if I'm doing all these different like pedal switches and giant like reverbs, and I'm pushing into this like a cool like fuzz part, and then going here, then doing like a syncopated trem. But the person is just like Dance Revolution up there, just like standing there doing their thing, and then they click that. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. And then it's like they're like looking at their like almost like shoegazy, but like in like a professional standpoint, you're like, damn, is that guitar player? What the fuck is he doing? I guess he's doing a lot
of shows. To be honest, like I'm lucky. I'm happy if I can just hear my guitar during a show. It's loud, shit's going all crazy. I'm like, if it's behind me, I can hear when I'm playing a solo. And I can hear my vocals, I'm happy. All these little subtleties and shit that you could spend like 10 hours in your basement figuring out, all these little things. As soon as you get on stage and you say go, like all that shit's out the window.
Or even if you can't hear your vocals, you're like, well, I practice and I know how to sing in key. I'm just going to shove those earplugs in and just hear myself. Hopefully he's singing in key too.
Right. You just got to kind of go for it. And, there's shows where you can hear yourself really good.
Yeah, those are the really cool ones. You're like, oh shit, man, I could hear everything. Wow. The monitor worked.
Yeah. So it's like you never, I don't know. I wrote a little article thing for Josh Scott. He's doing like a blog thing, and it was kind of like discussing where you kind of have to draw a line at some point between really dialing your shit in perfectly and just getting to the point where it's like, this does what I want it to do. It's pretty damn close, and I can just accept that, and hopefully everything else will just go well with the set, and it's going to sound fucked up at least 50% of the time,
And then you got to think of like who's in the crowd is going to notice that shit.
Right. And it's coming through a PA, which may or may not sound decent at all.
Yeah.
And or you're playing the middle slot and all the gear is backlined and your amp is like, a foot and a half from your ass.
Yeah.
So you're basically your cab is just blowing the back of your knees out.
Yeah.
And you can't hear what's coming out of it anyways, So it's like, maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't.
Yeah, and you're kind of just like, hope for the best sometimes. And then it's like I mentioned, a friend comes to our shows, Johnny Ray, and sometimes I'll play bass, and I'll notice like, when I play bass for bands, I'm like, oh, I don't know, the horn was too loud, and I heard the clickiness of my frets to this, and Johnny's like, in the fucking crowd, dude, you can't hear that shit. Like, stop being a bitch, get out of your own head. And I'm like thinking about it. And I'm like, sometimes you just gotta like tell yourself, I'm like, dude, sometimes you just need to fucking just rock out. It's like
sometimes you gotta tell yourself that Johnny is an asshole.
Yeah, not you, Johnny, but another Johnny.
Right.
There's too many Johnnies.
The song's got to carry itself, and everything else is just kind of an added bonus, right?
Yeah, and then it's like kind of playing to each other is the biggest thing. If you guys are like, I mean, we've all played those shows where it's like you're just basically have the vocals through the PA and everything else. You're in a shitty echoey bar, and you're just like, you hit the snare,
you're in like a dungeon.
Yeah, and it's like, well, all right, here we go. We're just gonna figure this out. And usually, like, if you're locking in, and then you figure out the parts that you need to hit, and make sure you're all together, and stop and do the ba 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 ba, and like come in on the one or whatever, and then you're like, okay, cool, we're good. And then people in the crowd are like, if they're partying and having fun, most of the time they don't give a shit.
I couldn't hear the vocals. I'm like, good.
Yeah. Or you'll play those shows where you fucking like, have really killer sound and everybody's so fucking drunk anyways. We played like beer fests where people are just fucking trashed. I'm like, dude, the sound is killer out there. And people are like, yeah, you're great, man. Hey, where's the bar?
What band are you in?
Yeah. Oh, you're the guy, the bass player, the big guy with the beard. And I'm like, yeah. All right, where's my chick? And I'm like, all right, cool. So that's like, you always kind of just like, all right, do your best to put on a show to figure out what matters and what doesn't. You're just like, fuck it, just go with the flow.
Yeah, right. As long as vocals are sounding good, it's like pick your battles. Like, all right, well, I better make sure I'm singing good if I can't hear my fucking guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because at least the guitar will be close. People might not pick up on it. But if your vocals suck and you're out of key, then that's a problem.
People are like, that vocals suck. Yeah, but did you hear my tone, dude?
Right. So, and I saw some interview with Zach Wilde, and they asked him about, he's playing like Epiphones with EMGs and all this bullshit. And like, hey, how come you don't use like Les Paul Customs and all your vintage guitars and vintage gear and yada yada? And he's like, man, when I get up on stage, those stacks are so fucking loud. I could be playing a 2x4 and it wouldn't make a fucking difference. Basically just like, it's so loud. It sounds like a guitar. The gain's cranked. So what? It sounds like a loud guitar in a fucking arena with 50,000 people.
Yeah. I don't think there's probably a very small percentage of that 50,000 people would give a shit out of that pool.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we're okay.
Right. Big, loud Marshall amp in an arena. It's going to sound like, what you would think that would sound like. And you could play any guitar and it's probably still going to sound pretty fucking close. So,
yeah, totally.
I don't know. But I kind of have been thinking about, leading up to this podcast, I've been thinking about things to talk about. And we kind of kicked around, this idea of like bigger pedal boards and more pedals. And then I've been kind of thinking about this all week to where, basically the last 10 years has been like the renaissance of pedals, right?
Yeah, totally.
it's gone from like, me playing guitar growing up in the 80s and 90s, you got a thing that kind of got you close to the sound that you wanted to sound like the band you liked or whatever. And it was just kind of strictly based on just the function of what you need, and hopefully someday you could be in a band and you'll have this tone that you want because you bought this pedal. And once grunge hit, it was like minimalism.
Yeah,
totally. Like you had one gain pedal and you had a chorus, it was super minimal, but in the last, I started doing this 2011, so almost 8 years, and I've seen it go from this many pedal brands to 5 gazillion. Every your 10-year-old nephew is a pedal company now, and it's because he has a laptop. And there's a lot of hobbyists and shit too that are just making stuff. Look, I'm a company. Like, well, okay, I get it, but I think too, and this is something that I've been trying to wrap, kind of curtail the way that I look at this whole thing that I make a living doing, is that it somewhere along the line, I went from people buying effects to get a certain tone with hopes of writing music and being in a band or, whatever, playing music in a style that is, sounds good to them, to becoming like literally just, like a hobby, and people that aren't even necessarily musicians or even play an instrument are buying these things almost like they're kind of like toys, right?
Yeah, collectibles or something. Yeah.
People that, the people that are buying these things with no intention of writing albums or going on tour or being in a band, they're getting these things to sit in their room and make noises and be creative, and that whole, whatever that is, and that leads into like the modular synth thing and that whole kind of realm. And I think it's just completely changed into being a whole different section of effects. It's like a hobby. It's they're toys.
Yeah, it definitely has changed, especially like since you've been in it, Like, because I remember, like, I started getting into pedals around, I guess, when you got started. I was always just like, I played Mesa half stack, and I was like, I got a Strat and a half stack.
So sick.
That's Blink-182 Different Glory. That's all I need. And I started getting into like using pedals and stuff like that. And I was like, it's cool. And like I've noticed it too, especially in the last 5 years at least. It's like a huge boom to where it's like, I don't know. I guess it could lead into the topic I guess we kind of were gonna do next. It's like there's more trends, I guess, with pedals. It's like they're not just like some kind of almost like the idea of like lifestyle brands, brands can be like a thing, and it's like, what makes a brand a blank brand? It's like Mesa was the metal brand. It's like Korn, Limp Bizkit, Cannibal Corpse, all that shit. Yeah,
the
new metal thing. But it's like fucking like Santana and Rush also used like Mesas. So it's not they're not a new metal brand, but a lot of them did. It's like, and then it's like in my mind, I know they're not, but in my head, I default thinking Strymon is like a praise and worship brand. Because I'm like, I see them all the time. Those clean ass boards, like you were saying, the Tetris boards. They got the Strifecta because fucking might as well. And
I have always said, and this was like our touring inside joke, because I toured my balls off for years, and you always have the band setting up for you or after you, and you're always playing with new bands every night. And it was always, you'd see a band set up their shit and you'd look at their gear, and I would always say, you can always tell a band by their gear, right? Mm-hmm. And now with these pedal board things, it's even more obvious because you see those boards, and we all know what they look like, and you can tell by what they got on there, like, oh, okay, it's this kind of whatever. It's like, oh, okay, four delay pedals and 3 reverbs, and I think you start to wonder, is the motive because they really need every Strymon pedal, or is it because they're like, dude, I got the whole collection. Isn't this cool? Look at my thing. I got 4 Chase Bliss pedals. Could you believe it? I had to save up my money for 6 months.
The loan got approved, everyone.
The loan got
right. It's almost more like they're collecting or they're showing off, and it's not like these people are even in bands. Really, it's just like a hobby, and that's cool. And that's there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just a different aspect of what I do, or a different aspect of the market that I'm trying to like wrap my head around a little bit, because I come from such just a completely, like functional necessity type background of things, that it's hard for me to step outside of that a little bit and go, okay, there's people that do this. Don't be an asshole. There's people that do this because it's fun and because they like pedals and they're being creative.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's not the school of fucking rock and roll background that I came from.
The school of thought that you've come from.
Right.
And
it's like, wow, dude, look at all that modular shit you got. That's like thousands of dollars of stuff. What do you play? I play a calculator. Like what? Wait, that's an instrument? You got a fucking calculator? I don't even know what that is. That's
Texas
thing, right?
Instruments TI-85.
Yeah. Right. Aren't those like noise generators or something? And then they I don't even know what half this shit is, but it's not like, does anybody want to start a band where we, whatever that, it's just a different kind of planet, but
yeah,
it's like we're inventing instruments or ways to make music or,
mm-hmm. I mean,
whatever. It's like,
it's cool that it's so expanding too, that like more people can get into it and do stuff in totally different ways. But no, I mean, I also get that where you're coming from. It's like, I guess like my pedalboard has expanded more over the past couple of years because we haven't hit the road in a while. But when we were going, we haven't been signed, we haven't done anything. But when we've toured, the goal is to like break even. We book our own shows. We're doing that. We're emailing, getting out there. We were like playing the smallest gear that we could, PT Nano for bass, or even nothing. Actually, at that time, Kyle didn't even play pedals. You were just into a Ampeg head.
Yeah, and it had the rack tuner.
Yeah, a rack tuner is all you needed. And then for me, I think I brought a pedal train mini, and I had like 4 or 5 pedals on there because I was just loading in and out of the van. And I'm like, man, if there was a way we could like bring the drummer's set down, he's already playing a 4-piece like with a rack tom and a floor tom. I'm like, man, can you do without that rack tom, dog? Just less shit.
House kit.
Yeah. Those house kits are rough. Do you need 2 crashes, dude? Can't you just crash on that ride?
I got this first act kit, you know, really taught.
But yeah, so it's like we definitely were doing the more minimal thing when we were on the road. So I guess once we book more shows and do like, we haven't got out. That's like, damn. I mean, I know we're talking about the topic, but I want to get out and play more shows and do weekenders and stuff like that. Things have just gotten in the way. Do you guys tour with Evictions?
Oh, we're going to New York in like 2 weeks. We're going to play a few shows. And then we're coming back, and then we're going to go to New York again. And like after NAMM, and we're going to record, we hit up like out of town Midwest stuff and that, we're not going out for, like I used to go out for 2 months or all that crazy.
Those are like kind of like, weekender benders kind of deals like that. Or are you doing like
we'll
fly dates?
We're flying to New York for these just because the time of year, it's like diving into Christmas time for me. And, none of us are like 23-year-old broke ass drunks in a band, like we used to be. Where
you got the family and shit. You're like, all right, we can make this work, but it's got to be this time.
Right. I mean, when we were touring in my other band, I mean, there was a time where our bass player was so happy to go on tour because he was basically homeless. So at least when we went on tour, he got to sleep in a bed. Jeez. And like you got to eat, or you got to eat and drink for free.
Yeah, sleep in the van. I guess that's
right. So he was better off being on the road because at least we had hotel rooms and like catering and shit.
Yeah.
So, but this, it's like, we all have jobs.
And so with that, you're like the less is more for sure. You could probably bring a guitar, your pedal board, and then just like backline it for like a year.
And the rule for me, I've had this case for like, I don't even know, fucking at least 15 years. I've had this road case for my pedal board. and it's it's been around the world. It's covered in stickers. It's beat to shit, and it's not it's only a certain size, so I can only fit a certain size board in it.
Yeah, that keeps you grounded.
That kind of right. Like if I can't fit my pedals on this board, then it's not going to fucking work. You know,
goldfish,
which is like, all right, well, that's the rule of thumb.
Yeah, give the goldfish a bigger bowl, and he'll just grow bigger.
Yeah, so. And become
yeah.
a bigger
If I
problem.
start lugging around I got a bunch of PT2s that I've gotten for using for Daredevil shows and trade shows and stuff. It's like I know as soon as I start using one of those fuckers, then it's like, oh, now I could easily put like 10 pedals on here, and then I'm lugging around this 45-pound fucking case of shit,
Yep.
And then I'm toe tapping and I'm staring at my feet and something's gonna fuck up, and it's like I'd rather focus on just playing good and writing good songs, whatever. So
that's cool. Yeah.
But yeah, we were saying too about like trends and what kind of dictates that, and
is it like the gear dictates the trends, or you were saying, or is it vice versa? Is it like, or like people like changing what they're doing because of new gear that's coming out, or people are like, oh well, look, well,
right? Or is it just brand manufacturers that are like, hey, this is something that we want to tap into, and then like Fender's just putting out 1 million types of offset guitars because that's what's popular right now. So people are like, well, this must be, I think they're scratching each other's back with like, well, this is what's popular, and this is, I don't know. It's
people have spoken.
Right. And I just always I come up with the analogy of me starting to play guitar in the late 80s, and then all of a sudden it was like my friends that actually had some money, they would get the fucking the rack shit because that's what was cool. And the only way you could get cooler is if you got a bigger and bigger and bigger rack to where you see like all these bands, like all these touring bands and like Rip Magazine and Circus and shit. They had these, these fucking like 4 foot tall racks of just preamps and processors and all that bullshit that was popular until grunge hit. And then immediately it was like, locking tremolos, fuck you, rack gear, fuck you. Everything just went totally out the window overnight. And then it was Marshall amp, 1 pedal, and a fucking Strat. And then I was like, oh, thank God, because being 13, I had enough money. Like I would save up, and then I bought my Boss distortion pedal, and that was like all the money in the world.
Yeah.
And I had a fucking beat up Strat that I got at a pawn shop and a combo amp. And I was like, well, I'm set.
Yeah. Now
I made like bands that I like.
I'm on trend now.
Right.
And it was
I have the same gear as Nirvana and the other bands that I like. And now I can sound just like that. Perfect. Done. And then you go to all the pawn shops and there's just like piles of fucking rack gear all over for sale for $10.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's not cool anymore. Shit. Let me get rid of these spandex,
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that
is
that going to happen again?
Who knows what's going to happen next? Because I know the bigger trend too is, well, I mean, I am liking the trend of smaller amps. Like I went from playing a half stack to a 50 watt 1x12, and I'm like, you know what? I do like that because it's oh my god, you could throw that in the back of a back seat of a car, no problem. Whereas like a half stack, you're like, well, better have a fucking truck or a van or SUV, something like that. And so those orange and 4x12s are no joke.
And a lot of huge bands, they're using combo amps back in their fucking ISO box anyways.
Yeah.
And everything you're hearing from front of house is a fucking Fender Deluxe or something,
Yeah. And I'm like noticing like too, I'm like the 1x12 50 watts, I can usually fill like a venue that doesn't mic because I'm like, oh, I basically just need to get over to the drummer and then we're good to go.
Right.
And
then you got me.
And then the bass. And especially, when the bass doesn't work, it's great.
Shut up.
Shut the fuck up. I don't know, it's not really is it a good thing or a bad thing that the gear has like trends? I guess it's like, is it like maybe puts a bad taste in your mouth for certain brands, or like maybe you don't want to try that brand because it is a certain type of one? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I avoid some brands.
if I didn't do Daredevil, I could give a flying shit less. You know,
Yeah.
the only thing for me is just it's kind of confusing because I feel like I need to figure out why all these things are a certain way just for my own like surviving doing this and making money and paying my bills.
Yeah,
you
totally.
know? And it's kind of it's a perplexing thing. And of course there's, companies like Fender have whole teams of people that study this bullshit, right?
Yeah, totally.
And like web analytics and stuff to figure out like, well, why exactly are young people 18 to 24 buying fucking offset guitars at a alarming rate,
Yeah.
So it's just kind of one of those, like, I'm curious, and it is amazing how, like group mentality, something kind of catches on, like, Strymon.
Yeah.
I get it. They're awesome, but they're also like fucking $400 each awesome, which I don't know where you guys came from out there, but like, dude, when I was a teenager, fucking $400, that was like 6 months worth of food, This is such a fucking crazy thing for me to wrap my head around, that some of these kids have pedal boards that are like $4,000 and $5,000 worth of shit.
Yeah, you're like,
they're probably not buying it themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. And
the milk money.
The worship dudes are tax free, so that's like 30% right there, man.
Yeah, there are certain brands that I like to. I mean, at least hold the reins on, and then because I think the hype people jump in on, like, oh, this is what's new, this is what's dope, whatever
this is the thing,
whatever those kids are saying. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to maybe name them.
Yeah, fucking name them. Well,
I don't know.
You'll talk shit.
We've talked about. I mean, I think we've probably talked about it way too much, but the the DRV.
Yeah,
that's still that same craze. I'm in the wall. I mean, I'm an idiot. I'm in the walrus craze.
So it's pretty much the same.
Yeah,
it's like you're in a different.
I know,
camp,
and I can see both sides of that.
Yeah,
but I mean, I love my walrus.
Yeah, I mean the DRV is fine. I just don't get why it's so big in praise and worship, because it's a distortion pedal.
Yeah,
I mean that's not really known in praise and worship. I thought it was like cleans and reverbs and shit like that. But
it's because it's cool, man.
Yeah, but I'm like, how? Why. I don't get it. I'm like, when did that become a thing?
I don't get it either, dude. So
you tell me,
I think
bro.
certain things, like Chase Bliss stuff, dude. Joel is like a goddamn genius, right? He engineers incredible stuff. Granted, they're like $400 or $500.
Yeah,
so like that kind of stuff is just like, I'm in awe of like how amazing and kick ass that is. Because I was next to him his first NAMM when he had like two little pedals and just a fucking folding table.
Yeah,
in like a teeny booth. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I just started like making these pedals and it's just like right out of the gate. And then all of a sudden, you fast forward like 6 years and this like, holy shit, you sold how many pedals in 24 hours?
Damn,
at fucking $400 a piece.
Yeah, for
Holy
sure.
fuck,
that
dude.
says something about the loyalty of, their fans, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is,
that kind of stuff. It's incredible. And I could never, ever use any of those pedals because I'm so OCD and fucking confused as it is. You give me a bunch of dip switches and like fucking 10 knobs.
You hold this down to turn that. Yeah.
And you can't adjust that shit during, like, you're going to hold on, guys. Don't start the next song. Wait, let me get a flashlight.
Yeah.
I got to adjust the like, ugh.
This dental pick, get in there. And,
right. But it's amazing. It's amazing stuff and it's brilliant. It's just not for me. So it's like, well, how do I shit on, fucking these people want to have like $5 million in modular synth shit in a room? Awesome, dude. Like,
Go
that's,
for it, yeah.
You're being creative. You're doing something cool. It's a lot better than playing fucking video games or watching TV.
What?
Like you're being creative.
Why not both?
That's rad.
Yeah.
And
yeah, play pedals and play gear, but also watch TV and play video games
at the same time.
Yeah,
and don't get anything out of any of those.
Just quit work and just do all that stuff.
Yeah, it makes me want to experiment. Like just take my line and just design all new enclosures with whatever the concept of artwork is, something totally different. And then just put it out and people will be like, oh my God, this brand, and just, it's like, it's like buying a fucking micro brew beer,
Yeah.
You know, it's like, how do you choose, dude? Well, hey, this label's got a fucking Iron Maiden guy on it. That must be awesome.
That
Like,
must be a
okay,
rockin'
great.
beer.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, how the fuck do you know, dude? Come on. It's like, oh, this TS9 clone is better than the other one because it's $290.
Yeah, or it's
The
like,
fuck outta
yeah,
here.
I guess with that too, it's like, do you want to be more nondescript and not stand out? To stand out? That's really,
Yeah, do you want
I
to
don't
sound
know.
like everybody? Great.
With your, I
You
mean,
get
even
those
with
same 5 pedals.
the pedal design too, you know? It's like, is it more iconic to be like less image?
Less flashy.
I don't know.
Less flashy.
I don't get that either. I'm like, I'd rather have like the pedal kind of be its own thing because you're repping that, you know. But
I
shit,
don't know. I like seeing graphics on pedals
yeah,
because I'm an idiot probably.
like that shit's tight.
My pedal board is all like spray painted and covered in tape. You know, like you don't
Nice.
even know what any of the pedals are, which because it's all like blem enclosures and like extra stuff that got dented or something. They're like, oh, I'll use that for myself, I guess. You know, so it's like, oh, the green one is that, the red one is the drive, and then this other one that has spray paint on it is the fuzz, and everybody's like, what the fuck is all
You're
that?
like shit. Looks like I'm adding another pedal to the pedal
Yeah,
board.
and that's a good way because you could be like, okay, I don't need, I'm, you know, I need to know. Nobody else needs to know.
Yeah.
So people come up to your board. What's that? I don't know. Cool shit.
Don't worry about it. Smoke weed about it.
Well, it
Smoke
just looks
weed.
it looks kind of embarrassing being that that's what I do for a living, and it's like, man, you got a dumpy ass, you know, I don't even have like a name brand pedal board. I built it myself. It's like a piece of wood I put carpeting on, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
You think I would like trying to have some dignity about it? It's like, no, this is strictly just functional. I beat the shit out of it. It works, and you know, like it's not a fashion show, dude.
Yeah. Down the
You know?
runway, then the catwalk there.
Right, like, oh wow, that's so clean. You know, none of your pedals even look like they've been stepped on by a shoe.
Yeah.
You have to wear
You know?
booties.
It's like, well, you're kind of like losing your street cred there, man. I'd rather see someone's board that's just got black gunk all over it and scrapes and
Yeah.
tape and shit. Because then at least you know it's getting played and beat on the way it
Yeah,
should, right?
It's getting out there and getting used.
It's like, right, some guy's got a guitar that he wipes down with a diaper every day. It's like, what the fuck?
It's like
You know?
like a Ferrari.
Dude, I played one show. My guitar's already got like, you know, pieces of paint missing and scratches and fucking
Or-
beer and
or
sweat and
Blood on it. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what it's supposed to look like, man. You know, if you're doing it right.
Yeah. It's supposed
I
to
guess.
get out there, get some fun. All right. Well, I don't know. I think we kind of rambling on here, but let's take this in for a landing. What do you say?
I
I'm
mean,
ready.
we didn't insult anybody, right? We did good.
We kind of we like backhanded.
We did the
backhand
we did
compliments.
the shitting on.
Yeah.
Tone jerks are the ones jerking on somebody. But all right, before we head on out of here, Johnny, where can people find out more about Daredevil pedals and your band? Like I said, I definitely dig that shit. It's like fuzz, hyper, rock and roll. It's cool ass shit. Where can people find Daredevil and the Evictions?
Daredevilpedals.com and theevictions.com. Theevictions.com. It's all on there. I think there's even a link to the band page on my Daredevil page on the bio.
Hell yeah.
So, and you know, I have customers that email me and they're like, "Hey man, so what? This one fuzz you got? What? What's that kind of sound?" And then I'll just send them, you know, like a link to the one of the tunes on the record because it's like, well, what better way to fucking get an audio demo than to go into a super high end studio and
Yeah.
record a song with the same
con-
pedal, right?
Yeah, in context,
Like,
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Here's my band. This is the fuzz on this track. You know, you can hear it during the solo or whatever. And
Buy it on iTunes.
It kind of
Yeah.
all
You have to buy
Yeah,
the song on
it-
iTunes first.
leave the record on while you're sleeping at night and just mute your phone.
Yeah.
And right.
Make sure we chart and then yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. And then you guys you had kind of mentioned it. You're going to be at NAMM this year?
Yeah, got a NAMM booth upstairs, right by all the other pedal people.
Nice.
So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be stupid loud, and we're gonna have, I don't know. We talked about dragging out like stacks of fucking cabs and getting stupid with it,
That'd be dope. Yeah.
just to spite all the you know, the neat little amps and stuff. But then you just have the security sound dickheads up your ass the whole time.
Yeah.
Pointing at you with their multimeter phone app.
Excuse me,
you're over the dB limit.
Dude, the standing room volume is 108 dB.
You ever go to the fucking drum room, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that.
Right. Eat balls. Go away.
Yeah.
The slap bass guy is over there.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to get those big 1970s headphones. I think I'm just going to get those.
Yeah.
And people ask me things, and I'll just be like, I can't hear you, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. It's like, it seems like it's going to be fine. I always tell myself, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. We're just going to have fun, talk to our friends. And then like day 2, we're just like, start fucking karate chopping people. I need to get out of here.
Excuse me, where's the bathroom?
I'm going to take up smoking.
I need a fucking beer.
Yeah. I'm going to start. I got to buy some cigarettes. Fuck this. Like, ugh.
I got a new hobby of smoking
cigarettes.
cigarettes.
It'll be cool.
Yeah, we got to swing by and grab a beer.
Yeah. We'll cruise by and bug you this year.
Yeah, we should drink some beers. And, it's anytime you can leave Chicago for California in the middle of January is a fucking awesome idea.
Definitely.
So,
SoCal's not bad in January. But yeah, we're going to see you at NAMM. Check out Daredevil. Check out the Evictions. Cool stuff. But before we head on out of here, we're going to do our little spiel to wrap up here. So, thank you all for listening to the Tone Jerks podcast. This episode was probably a little bit longer, but it was a good one. Nothing wrong with that. If you guys like what you hear, you guys could follow along on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook. We have a Facebook group. Go join that. There's a lot of cool shit going on there. And if you like what you hear, you guys can leave a review on iTunes. We do have a new one. Kyle, you want to read it? You want me to read it?
I'll read it.
So we have a new one. So we're gonna, like we said, if you guys leave us a review on iTunes, hopefully 5 stars. But if you guys write something down and iTunes let you post it, then we'll read it on the air.
All right. So this one is a much needed edge to the game.
Yeah.
So it's 5 stars. How great is our God? This is from Yodhan Hunter.
Yeah.
They aren't sugary sweet or overly nice. They call things how they see it. They play punk music. That's debatable. They review gear that isn't ungodly expensive. They talk about its uses from a practical point of view. They drink beer. They swear. They play single pickup guitars and basses. Not all heroes wear capes. These ones just happen to drink Miller Lite.
All right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you, Yodon Hunter. But yeah, if you guys write a review on iTunes, leave us, something. And if you guys write something, then we'll read it on the air. But if you guys really like what you hear, you guys can help support the show on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, but for $2 a month. If you double down, you guys get an extra episode every week. So just for the support, we're going to give you guys a little shout out, a sizable acknowledgement. Kyle's got a list of names, a listy list. He's going to read it out. Give it to me.
All right. We have Andrew Walsh, Adam Rohr from the Let 'Em Hear podcast, Doug King, Doug Gann, and Doug Christ. You know him. Abe Newman, Michael Newman, Aaron Taylor, Nicholas Ogburn, Bruce Banana, Colin Smith, Jason Fuzzmonger, Joe, Will, and RJ from the Just Surprise Me podcast, Jamie Davis, Jim Bowers, Johnny Ray, Nicholas Payson. What are you laughing at?
You're just cranking through these.
Sorry.
All right. It's too many coffees or something. What?
Kevin Equits.
Okay, maybe speed up a little bit.
Kevin Equits from Equits Guitars. Steve Mike. Alvaro Viramontes.
Actually, Steve Mike from Hardly Human. They're released a new album.
Nice.
So check that out. It's on Spotify.
That's a band, right?
Hardly Human is a band. All right, cool. On Spotify.
You gotta say that.
Check them out.
It could be a podcast. They're releasing a podcast album.
Yeah, podcast album.
Alvaro Viramontes. Co Schneider from the Flippin' Flippers podcast. Brett Alexander. Digger from Fatfoot Effects. Brian from Nutter Guitars. Leon from Pelican Noise Works. Clark Griswold. I always laugh with that one. Sean Fahey, Sean Arbo, and we got a new one.
A new one?
Yeah.
Well,
that's a really shitty drum roll.
Yeah, I know.
Your paradiddles were all off.
Paradiddle diddles.
Sean Wright from Lollygagger.
Oh, old Shawnee boy.
Yeah.
Old longtime, friend.
Friend and enemy, all in one.
Frenemy. He's a La Familia. He's joined us on the Patreon.
Yeah, we're stoked.
Cool. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you for contributing. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for all that, and thank you, Johnny, for joining us.
Dude, thanks for having me. Yeah, anytime. I will spread the word, and I don't know what to say. I'm gonna go back to work. So
hell yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and check out Daredevil, and see you next week.
All right, bye.
Oh boy.